My name is Jennifer Hayes, and I'm 32 years old. The day I got the keys to my dream house should have been the happiest moment of my life. Instead, it became the day I realized my family never saw me as anything more than background noise. I stood in the empty living room of my new 3-bedroom craftsman-style home in suburban Portland, staring at my phone. 7 unanswered messages. 7 family members who'd promised to come celebrate with me. 7 excuses that appeared one by one throughout the morning like dominoes falling. Mom, sweetie, your father isn't feeling well. Rain check? Dad, your mother needs me today. Congrats though. My older sister Rachel, Emma, has a soccer game. You understand, right? My younger brother Marcus, work emergency. So sorry, Jen. My Aunt Linda, can't make it, honey. Next time. Even my best friend since college, Tara, client meeting ran long. I'll swing by next weekend, promise. And the final blow, from my grandmother who'd helped raise me, my hip is acting up, dear. Send pictures. I set the phone down on the kitchen counter, the beautiful granite counter I'd saved 3 years to afford, and felt something inside me crack. Not break. Not yet. Just crack, like the first fault line before an earthquake. The realtor had left champagne and 2 glasses with a ribbon that said "Congratulations on your new home." I opened the bottle alone, poured myself a glass, and walked through each room slowly. The hardwood floors gleamed. The bay windows let in golden afternoon light. The backyard had the cherry blossom tree I'd fallen in love with at first sight. Everything was perfect. Except I was completely alone. I'd spent the last decade building my career as a software project manager, climbing from junior developer to team lead, sacrificing weekends and holidays. I'd skipped family dinners for client calls. I'd missed Rachel's baby shower because of a product launch. I'd been absent from Marcus's graduation party due to a conference in San Francisco. But I'd told myself it was temporary. That once I achieved my goal, owning my own home before 35, I'd have time for everything else. Time for family. Time for relationships. Time to be the daughter, sister, and friend I'd always meant to be. I'd bought this house in Northeast Portland specifically because it was close to everyone. 15 minutes from my parents. 20 from Rachel. My office downtown was a straight shot on the bus line. I'd pictured Sunday dinners around my new dining table. Birthday parties in the backyard. Christmas mornings with everyone gathered around the fireplace. Instead, I sat on the floor of my empty living room, surrounded by cardboard boxes, drinking champagne straight from the bottle. Around 6 p.m., I started unpacking kitchen boxes. I was wrapping wine glasses in newspaper when my phone buzzed. Dad. Jen, we need to talk about the house. I stared at those 8 words. Not sorry we couldn't make it. Not the house looks beautiful in the photos. Just a demand disguised as a statement. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me wanted to send back something polite, something that maintained the careful peace I'd always kept with my family. But something else rose up inside me, something that had been building for years, maybe my entire life. What about it? I typed back. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Your mother and I have been talking. We think you made a mistake buying so far from downtown. The commute will kill you. And that neighborhood isn't what it used to be. I read it 3 times. Then I typed, you haven't seen the house. We've seen the address. We know the area. Look, we're just worried about you. This is a big investment. Maybe you should have consulted us first. Something hot and sharp moved through my chest. Consulted us first. I was 32 years old. I'd put down 20% from my own savings. I'd gotten pre-approved on my own credit. I'd chosen every detail myself. I invited you to see it today. You said Dad wasn't feeling well. A long pause. Then, he is feeling under the weather. But that's not the point. What is the point, Dad? Another pause, longer this time. When his response came, it hit like a punch. The point is your sister needs help with her mortgage. Your brother is trying to start his business. We thought you'd use that money to help family. Not buy some house you don't even need. You're single, Jen. What do you need 3 bedrooms for? I stood up so fast the wine bottle tipped over, spilling champagne across the hardwood I'd been so excited about. I didn't even notice. They'd wanted my money. Not my company. Not to celebrate my achievement. They'd wanted me to give up my dreams so they could fund theirs. So nobody came today because you're all angry I didn't give you my down payment? I wrote. That's not what I said. But it's what you meant. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared 4 times. Finally, we're family, Jennifer. Family helps each other. Your sister has 3 kids. Marcus is trying to build something. What are you building? An empty house? I looked around at my beautiful, empty, perfect house. The house I'd worked myself nearly to break down to afford. The house that was supposed to represent everything I'd achieved. And suddenly I understood. They hadn't come because I'd broken an unspoken rule. I'd succeeded beyond what was expected of me, beyond what was comfortable for them. I had become someone they couldn't control. I need to think, I typed. Then I turned off my phone. I sat back down on the floor, this time with my back against the wall, and let myself cry. Really cry. The kind of crying that empties you out completely. When I finally stopped, it was dark outside. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. And in that silence, something became clear. Tomorrow, I would text my father back. But what I said would change everything. Because I finally understood, they'd never seen me at all. Have you ever achieved something important only to realize your family resented you for it? Drop a comment below, I read every single one. I didn't turn my phone back on until the next morning. When I did, there were 17 new messages waiting. Mom, your father told me about your conversation. You're being dramatic. Call me. Rachel, really, Jen? You're going to ignore Dad now? After everything they've done for you? Marcus, can we talk? I think there's been a misunderstanding. Tara, hey, I heard from your mom. What's going on? I set the phone down and made coffee in my new kitchen, watching the sunrise through my bay windows. I needed to understand how I'd gotten here. How my family had become people I couldn't recognize. So I did what I always do when I'm overwhelmed. I went back to the beginning. Growing up in the Hayes household meant understanding your role and playing it perfectly. Rachel was born first, and she was everything my parents wanted: pretty, popular, married at 25 to a lawyer named Brett, 3 beautiful children by 30. She was the success story, the one my mother brought up at every family gathering. Marcus came next, the only son, the one who'd carry on the Hayes name. Dad taught him to play baseball, took him camping, showed him how to fix cars. Marcus could do no wrong. Even when he dropped out of college to find himself in Thailand for 2 years, they called it brave. Then there was me. I was born 4 years after Marcus, unplanned and, I always suspected, unwanted. I wasn't pretty like Rachel, I was too tall, too angular, wore glasses from age 7. I wasn't charming like Marcus, I was quiet, bookish, more comfortable with computers than people. I was the ghost child. The one who learned early that love was conditional on being useful but not too successful, present but not too demanding, helpful but never needy. I remembered being 9 years old, bringing home a report card with straight A's. Dad glanced at it and said, "That's nice, honey," before turning back to watching Marcus's Little League game on the camcorder. Mom was on the phone with Rachel, planning her middle school graduation party. I learned to celebrate my victories alone. By high school, I'd perfected invisibility. I got a full scholarship to Oregon State for computer science, but the family celebration lasted about 10 minutes before the conversation shifted to Rachel's engagement photos. I graduated summa cum laude 4 years later. Rachel was pregnant with her first child, and my graduation was scheduled the same weekend as her baby shower. When I suggested they might conflict, Mom looked at me like I'd proposed burning down the house. "Jennifer, she's having a baby. You're just graduating. Everyone graduates." I went to my graduation alone. Took myself to dinner afterward at a nice restaurant downtown. Bought myself flowers. That became my pattern, achieving things alone, celebrating alone, learning that my family's love came with limits I could never quite map. But here's what I didn't understand until much later: I'd been trained to be the family bank. The one who had money because I didn't have kids, didn't have a spouse, didn't have a real life that required resources. I was successful but not too successful. Stable but always available to help. When Rachel's husband Brett lost his job 3 years ago, I'd loaned them $8,000. They never paid it back, and when I finally mentioned it at Christmas dinner, Mom pulled me aside. "Rachel has children, Jennifer. Children are expensive. You'll understand someday if you ever settle down." When Marcus wanted to start his craft brewery business, Dad suggested I invest. "Family supports family," he'd said. I put in $15,000. The brewery never materialized. Marcus used the money to travel through South America instead. Nobody mentioned it again. When my grandmother needed a new roof, guess who paid for it? When Aunt Linda's car died, who bought her a used Honda? When my parents wanted to renovate their kitchen, who contributed $5,000 to the project? I told myself it was what family did. That love meant sacrifice. That eventually, they'd see me. Really see me. But they never did. Because I'd become exactly what they needed me to be, the invisible ATM with feelings they didn't have to consider. I sat in my new kitchen, drinking coffee and watching the morning light shift through the cherry blossoms, and felt the weight of 32 years of being unseen. My phone buzzed again. Rachel, calling this time. I answered. "Hello? Are you kidding me right now?" Her voice was sharp, angry. Dad is beside himself. Mom is crying. You're really going to punish the whole family because you didn't get enough attention at your house party? Nobody came, Rachel. Because we all had things going on. Life doesn't stop just because you bought a house, Jen. Some of us have actual responsibilities. That word. Responsibilities. Like my job, my career, my achievement, none of it was real. Not compared to her children. Not compared to Marcus's dreams. Did Dad tell you what he said to me? I asked quietly. He said he gave you some advice you didn't want to hear. Classic you, honestly. Can't take any criticism. He told me I should have given you my down payment instead of buying the house. Silence. Long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Rachel? Well. Her voice had changed, become defensive. Would that have been so terrible? Brett and I are struggling. You know how expensive kids are. You don't even need a 3-bedroom house. You're single. You'll probably just rattle around in there alone. There it was. The truth under all the excuses. So you all didn't come because you're angry I kept my own money, I said. That's not, you're twisting this. We're family, Jen. Family means sacrifice. But you've always been selfish. Ever since we were kids. Remember when you wouldn't share your scholarship money for my wedding? I almost laughed. You wanted me to use my scholarship money to pay for your open bar. It was my wedding. And it was my education. See? This is exactly what I'm talking about. You always put yourself first. Mom and Dad gave up so much for us, and this is how you repay them? By flaunting your success while your sister is struggling? Something clicked into place. A pattern I'd been too close to see. Every time I achieved something, they found a way to make it about someone else's need. Every boundary I tried to set became evidence of my selfishness. Every celebration of my success got reframed as neglect of their struggles. I'm not doing this anymore, I said quietly. Doing what? Apologizing for existing. For succeeding. For wanting something for myself. Oh my God, you sound insane. Do you hear yourself? This is what happens when you spend too much time alone. You get weird. I closed my eyes. Goodbye, Rachel. Don't you dare hang up on me. We're not done. I ended the call. My hands were shaking. I'd never hung up on Rachel before. Never contradicted her, never challenged her, never done anything but absorb her criticism and try harder to earn her approval. But something had broken open inside me last night. And I couldn't put it back. My phone rang again immediately. Mom this time. I let it go to voicemail. Then Marcus. Voicemail. Then Rachel again. Voicemail. I turned the phone to silent and walked through my house, my beautiful, empty, perfect house that I'd bought with my own money, my own credit, my own dream. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty about it. I felt angry. What would you do if your family made you feel guilty for your own success? Comment below. For 3 days, I didn't respond to anyone. I went to work, came home to my new house, and existed in a bubble of silence that felt both terrifying and strangely peaceful. My phone filled with messages. Voicemails. Even a few emails. Mom, this silent treatment is childish. We raised you better than this. Dad, your mother is very upset. We need to resolve this as a family. Rachel, fine, ignore us. But don't come crying when you're old and alone with nobody who cares. Marcus's messages were different. Softer. Hey, can we just talk? I miss you. That one almost broke me. Marcus had always been the easiest, the one who sometimes seemed to see me. But I remembered the $15,000. The brewery that never happened. The way he'd thanked me and then never mentioned it again. Even his kindness came with a price tag I was always expected to pay. On Thursday evening, I was sitting in my backyard under the cherry blossom tree when Tara showed up. I heard her car in the driveway, her knock on the front door, then her voice calling through the house. Jen? I know you're here. Your car's in the driveway. I didn't move. Part of me wanted to hide, to avoid the conversation I knew was coming. But another part, the new part that was starting to find its voice, stood up and walked around to the front of the house. Tara was standing on my porch, holding a bottle of wine and looking genuinely worried. Hey, she said softly. Your mom called me. She's freaking out. Of course she called you, I said, but without bitterness. Just resignation. Can I come in? I hesitated, then nodded. We settled in my living room, still mostly boxes, but I'd at least set up the couch and coffee table. Tara poured wine into actual glasses this time and handed me one. So, you want to tell me what happened? I told her everything. The empty house on Celebration Day. The text from my dad. The phone call with Rachel. The 17 messages of guilt and manipulation. Tara listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I'd always loved about her. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Jen, she finally said. I owe you an apology. I blinked. What? I didn't come to your house celebration either. I said I had a client meeting, but... She looked down at her wine. Your mom called me that morning. She told me you were being selfish about buying the house. That Rachel was really struggling and you'd refused to help her. She asked me not to come, said it would be enabling your self-centered behavior. The wine glass almost slipped from my hand. She did what? I'm so sorry. I should have called you. I should have verified. But your mom was so convincing, and she's known you your whole life, and I believed her. Tara's eyes filled with tears. I'm a terrible friend. No, I said automatically, but my mind was reeling. My mother had actively sabotaged my celebration day. Had called my best friend and lied to her. There's more, Tara said quietly. After I talked to your mom on Tuesday, after you and Rachel fought, I started thinking. So I called Rachel. Asked her what was really going on. And? She told me they'd all planned not to come. That your dad suggested it at Sunday dinner, and they all agreed it would teach you a lesson about family priorities. Rachel said you'd been getting too big for your britches and needed to be brought back down to earth. The room tilted. I set my wine glass down carefully because my hands had started shaking. They coordinated it? All of them? Tara nodded, crying openly now. I'm so sorry, Jen. I should have been there. I should have questioned it. You've been nothing but generous to all of them, and this is how they treat you? I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, my quiet street was settling into evening. Porch lights flickering on. A neighbor walking their dog. Normal life, continuing like my world hadn't just cracked open completely. My family hadn't accidentally missed my celebration. They deliberately stayed away to punish me for, what? For succeeding? For keeping my own money? For daring to want something for myself? There's one more thing, Tara said behind me. Marcus called me yesterday. He wanted me to convince you to loan him money for a new business idea. Said you owed it to the family to help him since you'd been so selfish about the house. I turned around. Marcus too? He seemed to really believe it, Jen. Like they've all convinced each other that you're the problem. That your success is somehow taking something away from them. I sat back down, not sure my legs would hold me. I don't understand. What did I do? I've always been there for them. I've given them money, time, support. That's exactly the problem, Tara interrupted. You trained them to see you as a resource, not a person. And now that you're finally putting yourself first, they can't handle it. We sat in silence for a while. Then my phone buzzed. Dad again. Jennifer, this has gone on long enough. We're coming over Saturday morning to talk some sense into you. Your mother is making breakfast. We'll be there at 9. I stared at the message. 3 days ago, I would have said yes. Would have cleaned the house, made coffee, prepared myself to be lectured about family obligations. Would have apologized for things I hadn't done wrong. But something had shifted in me. Something fundamental. I typed back, no. Just that. One word. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, excuse me? You're not welcome in my home. Not until you can respect me and my choices. How dare you speak to your father this way? After everything we've done for you. I took a breath and typed the message I should have sent years ago. What have you done for me? I paid for my own college. My own car. My own career. I've loaned Rachel $8,000 she never repaid. I've given Marcus $15,000 for a business he never started. I've paid for Grandma's roof, Aunt Linda's car, your kitchen renovation. I've given you years of my life trying to earn love that always had conditions. So tell me, Dad, what exactly have you done for me except make me feel like I'm never enough? I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The response was almost instant. You ungrateful, selfish girl. Don't bother calling when you realize what you've thrown away. Then, from Mom, I can't believe you'd speak to your father like that. You've broken his heart. I hope you're happy. Rachel, wow. Your true colors are finally showing. Don't expect us to be there when your life falls apart. But Marcus's message was different. Maybe you have a point. I never thought about it that way. Can we talk? Just us? I looked at Tara. They're all cutting me off. Good, she said firmly. Let them. Jen, you've been carrying these people for years. Maybe it's time to let them fall. My phone buzzed one more time. Grandma, the one who'd helped raise me, the one I'd always thought understood me. Jennifer Marie Hayes, I raised you to be better than this. Family is forever. Money and houses are temporary. You fix this right now, or don't bother visiting me again. And just like that, the last piece of my heart that believed in their love shattered completely. I turned off my phone. What are you going to do? Tara asked. I looked around at my beautiful house, the one I'd bought with my own hard work. The one they'd tried to make me feel guilty for wanting. The one that represented everything I'd achieved alone. I'm going to live my life, I said. Without them. Have you ever had to choose between your family and your own mental health? Tell me your story in the comments. 3 months later, I stood in my backyard watching the cherry blossoms fall. My house was finally unpacked, decorated, filled with furniture I'd chosen carefully. It looked like a home now. More importantly, it felt like one. The silence from my family had been absolute. No calls. No texts. No surprise visits. It was as if I'd never existed to them at all. And I was okay. More than okay, actually. The first few weeks had been brutal. I'd cried more than I had in my entire adult life. I'd questioned everything, convinced myself I'd made a terrible mistake, nearly texted my dad a dozen apologies. But Tara had stayed. She'd shown up every few days with takeout and wine, listening to me process 32 years of accumulated hurt. And slowly, I'd started to see clearly. I hadn't lost my family. I'd lost the fantasy of what I'd always wanted them to be. The real them, the people who'd coordinated skipping my celebration to teach me a lesson, who demanded my money while calling me selfish, who'd loved me only when I was useful and invisible, I hadn't lost them. I'd finally seen them. I'd started therapy in week 2. Dr. Patricia Chen specialized in family trauma and enmeshment. She'd listened to my story and said something that changed everything: you've been the family scapegoat. Every system needs one, the person who gets blamed for everyone else's problems. It's not your job to fix that system. Your job is to save yourself from it. So I had. I'd changed my phone number and given the new one only to people I trusted. I'd blocked my family on social media. I'd stopped checking my old email account where they'd been sending increasingly angry messages. And something amazing happened. I started building a life that was actually mine. I'd always wanted to learn pottery. I signed up for a class at the community center. I was terrible at it, but I loved it. The teacher, a woman named Diana in her 60s, became a friend. She'd invite me over for tea after class, and we'd talk about art and life and everything except family obligation. I'd always wanted a garden. I planted vegetables in my backyard: tomatoes, peppers, herbs. My neighbor, an older man named Frank, taught me about composting and shared his excess zucchini. His wife Maria started inviting me over for Sunday dinners. I'd always wanted to volunteer. I started reading to kids at the local library every Saturday morning. The librarian, Josh, introduced me to his book club. They met monthly, and they actually cared what I thought about the books. I was building a chosen family. People who saw me, valued me, celebrated me. People whose love didn't come with invoices. Marcus had texted my old number a few times in the first month. Messages that started angry, then became confused, then finally landed on something that might have been genuine. I talked to my therapist about everything. She said, "I've been using you." Said we all have. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try. If you're willing. I'd thought about responding. Part of me wanted to believe he was different, that he could change. But Dr. Chen had asked me, "What evidence do you have that he's changed? Words or actions?" I had only words. And I'd learned that words from my family meant nothing. So I didn't respond. One Saturday in late June, I was on my front porch drinking coffee when a car pulled up. My heart dropped. But it wasn't my family, it was a moving truck. A young couple was moving into the house across the street, struggling with boxes and arguing good-naturedly about which room should be the office. I walked over and offered to help. The woman, Sarah, looked at me with such genuine gratitude that I almost cried. "You're a lifesaver," she said. "We're completely overwhelmed." I spent the afternoon helping them unpack. Her husband Daniel ordered pizza for all of us. We sat on their empty living room floor eating and laughing, and Sarah told me about their own family drama, her mother who'd wanted them to buy a house in her neighborhood instead, who'd given them the silent treatment for weeks. "Family can be the hardest relationship to navigate," she said. "Because we're taught they're supposed to love us unconditionally. But sometimes the most conditional love comes from the people who are supposed to be safest." I nodded, feeling seen in a way I'd never felt with my own family. "Did you work it out with your mom?" I asked. Sarah shook her head. "We set boundaries. She either respects them or she doesn't get access to us. It's been hard, but it's been worth it. Some relationships cost too much to maintain." That night, back in my own house, I thought about cost. What it had cost me to keep trying to earn my family's love. The money, yes, but also the years of self-doubt. The constant anxiety that I wasn't enough. The way I'd shrunk myself to fit their expectations. And I thought about what I'd gained by walking away. Peace. Self-respect. Real friendships. A life that belonged to me. My phone, the new one, rang. It was Tara. "Hey," she said. "Want to come over tomorrow? I'm having a few people over for a barbecue. Nothing fancy, just friends." Friends. The word settled warm in my chest. "I'd love that," I said. "Oh, and Jen? I'm proud of you. I know these months have been hard, but you're different now. Lighter. Like you're finally taking up space instead of apologizing for existing." After we hung up, I walked through my house one more time. Every room told a story now. The living room where Tara and I had wine nights. The kitchen where I'd learned to make Diana's famous soup. The guest room where Sarah and Daniel had stayed when their hot water heater broke. This house wasn't empty anymore. It was full, just not with the people I'd expected. My old phone, which I'd kept in a drawer, buzzed. I'd left it on for some reason I couldn't explain. Maybe some part of me had still been hoping. It was an email from my mother. The subject line read, "Final message." I almost didn't open it. But something made me click. "Jennifer, I don't know who you've become, but you're not the daughter I raised. Your father and I have decided you're no longer welcome at family gatherings. Rachel agrees. We've told Marcus not to contact you. You've made your choice, your house and your selfishness over your family. I hope it's worth it when you're old and alone with nothing but your precious independence. Don't contact us again. We're done." I read it twice. Then I did something that surprised me. I laughed. Because she'd done me a favor. She'd officially released me from the obligation of trying. No more wondering if I should reach out. No more guilt about holidays. No more pretending. They were done. Which meant I was free. I replied with just 2 words, "Thank you." Then I deleted the email, turned off the old phone, and threw it in the trash. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through my bay windows. I made coffee in my kitchen, ate breakfast on my back patio under the cherry blossom tree, and planned my day: pottery class with Diana, lunch with Frank and Maria, Tara's barbecue in the evening. My calendar was full. Not with obligations, but with joy. I thought buying this house would give me a place to build a life with my family. Instead, it had given me something better, the foundation to build a life of my own. My phone buzzed. Sarah from across the street, Daniel and I are having breakfast. Want to join? We make terrible pancakes but excellent company. I smiled and typed back, "Be right there." As I locked my front door and walked across the street, I realized something. I'd spent 32 years believing that family was the people you were born to, the people whose approval you had to earn no matter the cost. But I'd learned something better. Family is the people who show up, who see you, who celebrate your victories without resentment, who love you not despite your success, but because of who you are when you're finally free to be yourself. I'd lost a family, but I'd found a home. And that house I'd bought, the one that had caused so much conflict, had turned out to be the best decision I'd ever made. Not because of the hardwood floors or the cherry blossom tree or the perfect bay windows, but because it had finally shown me who I was when I stopped apologizing for taking up space. 6 months after I moved in, I was sitting on my front porch when an unfamiliar car pulled up. My stomach tightened, some part of me still braced for confrontation. But it was Marcus. Alone. He got out slowly, hands in his pockets, looking uncertain in a way I'd never seen from him. "I know you changed your number," he said from the sidewalk. "I respect that. I wanted to say something in person, and then I'll go." I didn't invite him closer, but I didn't go inside either. "I've been in therapy," he said. "Real therapy, not just talking about it. And my therapist helped me see everything. How we used you. How we made your success about our failure. How we punished you for finally choosing yourself." He paused, looking down. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness or to ask you to come back. I'm here to say I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. And I understand if you never want to see me again." I looked at my little brother, 31 years old and maybe just now starting to grow up. "Thank you," I said quietly. "For saying that." "That's it? Just thank you? What else do you want me to say, Marcus?" "I don't know. That you forgive me? That we can try again?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Maybe someday," I finally said. "But not now. I need to keep protecting what I've built here. And I need to see actions, not just words." He nodded slowly. "That's fair. That's more than fair." He started back toward his car, then turned. "The house looks beautiful, by the way. I'm glad you bought it." After he left, I sat on my porch for a long time. Sarah came out of her house across the street, saw my face, and just sat down beside me without asking questions. That's what family does, I thought. Real family. "You okay?" she finally asked. "Yeah," I said. And I meant it. I really am. Have you ever experienced betrayal like this? Have you had to choose between family and your own well-being? Share your story in the comments below. And remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish. Sometimes it's the only way to survive.